All right, MCU fans, we are talking episode 5, or the penultimate episode of season 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. My goodness, my goodness. This was the longest episode of the series so far. And yeah, shoot. The episode title is entitled Truth. And Isaiah, aka the black super soldier who was exploited by the US government for experimental purposes, after he debuted in, I believe, episode 2 of the series, everybody and their mother, was doing a video on Isaiah Bradley and the comic book that he was written into, which was Truth. That was the name of the Captain America kind of, storyline that he was in. So that's the episode title, Truth. And as Black Man, my gosh, the dialogue was strong. But let's go ahead and jump into it. But before we do so, go ahead and hit that like button, hit subscribe, click the bell notification icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post new content, when I, add stuff to the channel. And follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And unlike Disney Plus, my channel is free. But if you would like to donate anyway, whether it be $1, $3, whatever, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App. Now, the opening scene, my goodness. First of all, this is the first episode of the series where they have a mid-credit scene, just to put that out there. But also, we pick up where we left off. It looks like John Walker actually just sprinted from the town square where he murdered that guy with the shield. We don't see him run, dash from the square. We just see him on the run. As soon as the episode begins, he's like in a warehouse, and everything that's happened over the course of, when him and Battlestar go into the building before they get before they get ambushed by the Flag Smashers. He's remembering, because I think Lamar was like, hey, I don't think we should go in there right now, but they go in anyway. And, the fight, Lamar being killed, the dialogue about, hells yeah, I take the serum. It's like, you've always made the right choices. So it feels like the beginning of episode 2, where we first get our true introduction to John Walker. At the end of episode 1, we just see him come down the stairs. He's declared the new Captain America and he winks at the camera. But the beginning of episode 2, we're supposed to be, understanding his character, and it's like, oh, he is kind of sympathetic, but he's going to be an asshole based on the comic books. But the weight of everything that's happening, not to mention, I've always wondered, now early in the series, when I think it was Carly and one of the Flag Smashers just talking about taking the serum and whatnot, and how it felt like their bodies were boiling and just adjusting to everything. We don't know exactly the time frame between when Walker took the serum to when he actually fought the Flag Smashers, because when he first threw the shield and it literally just caved into the wall, it's like he took that serum. We don't know how his body adjusted to it, or if his body had even fully adjusted to the serum at that point, because the way he's twitching and all, to be honest, he was doing that before taking the serum to begin with, almost like he has agitative or bad nerves. But in any case, I was always curious about how that impacted him. Now, I may have mentioned this in my video earlier this week or last week, but the serum that he took is more perfected than that of even the serum that Steve Rogers was given, which in turn was more powerful than the serum that Bucky was given. And I believe this also means Isaiah Bradley's serum that he was given wasn't as, well, obviously we learned in the episode it wasn't as perfected as Steve's. So this opening scene, Sam and Bucky come in there to try to, calm him down. It's like Sam is using his training as like a post-army counselor. He just says, hey, look, you made a mistake. We'll go talk to the government. We'll get this thing straightened out here, but you need to give me a shield. And remember, even before he walks into these guys, he's really dealing with the weight of the circumstance of everything that happened up to that point. And he's like, back to work. It's kind of like he's just shrugging off. Yeah, I killed the guy, but I got to get back to work. These Flag Smashers, I got to stop them. So then he comes up to the guys and a fight breaks out. And I got to say, it's hard to tell. I still think that despite how awesome this fight scene was, I think the opening scene of Sam in the premiere where he's, having that aerial battle with, the guys who had taken the U.S. Officer, that's probably still my favorite action scene of the series so far. But this one was pretty good too. Some people I was talking with some friends about, they're like, man, what the hell? Bucky should have been able to beat him. Now, yes, in terms of experience and tactics, Bucky is more skilled than John Walker. But like I said before, the serum was more effective on John because it was perfected. So power level wise, if you want to go that route, power scaling, John Walker is stronger than Bucky Barnes. But you could also argue, well, we don't know if the shield is made of vibranium because of the fact that this is a quote unquote alternate shield from an alternate timeline that Steve gave Sam. So I don't know if this shield is vibranium. I could be wrong, but I don't know. But in any case, let's just assume it is vibranium, just like the previous shield. Bucky has enough vibranium arm, so right there you could argue that's quote unquote even. But in a way, it's like obviously Bucky's vibranium arm gives him more strength, whereas Walker's shield gives him more defense. Now, on top of that, Bucky, in my opinion, wasn't fighting to kill. I mean, freaking Walker, he was about to, smash his shield on Sam and Bucky at different points of the fight. And I'm just like, dude, he's about to do it again. So, obviously Sam isn't a super soldier, but the dude, the way they're making Falcon look so effective and badass in these fight scenes is amazing. Remember, he's just a guy with a backpack, but he's able to utilize his wings and thrusters to make his hits more effective. He's able to kind of sprint out of the way. I love it. I love it. I love it. But there were so many callbacks during this fight. Like, it was almost like a reversal of the Cap and Bucky versus Iron Man fight at the end of Civil War, where it's Captain America, John Walker versus Bucky. And you could argue that Falcon is kind of like Iron Man because he uses tech to enhance his abilities in a fight. So yeah, it's kind of like, Bucky and Iron Man versus Captain America. And this dude is like a freaking rabid dog because when he gets on top of Sam, it's like, I am Captain America. It's almost like, mother, you foaming at the mouth. You better not get that shit on me. So he's fighting, and there was one scene, I think, where Bucky was either going for like Walker's gun and it gets flung across the room. Like, oh shit, he's about to go Winter Soldier on his ass right here. But it reminded me of like in like Power Rangers or video games, when you fight a boss or an evil ranger, they're able to like take the entire team down or whatever. But as soon as they become a member of your team, they seem weaker. That's kind of like what I felt with Bucky, because Bucky wasn't in Winter Soldier mode. He was in fight mode, but it wasn't as, if this dude was Winter Soldier, he'd probably have an easier go of it. But, regardless, it was a great fight. But I think, to me, one of the best scenes, I know that somebody pointed out that when Bucky and Walker went one-on-one, it almost was like a blow-for-blow remake choreography of the street fight that Steve had with Winter Soldier when they first met in the Winter Soldier film. But I think my favorite part was right before they broke Walker's arm to get the shield off. It almost looked exactly like when the Guardians and Avengers were trying to get the gauntlet off of Thanos in Infinity War, where Bucky had Walker pinned up against one of the machines, and Falcon grabbed his arm with the shield, and he pulled on a thruster, and you could hear his arm pop, and it was like, ah! So that literally reminded me of like when they had Thanos under Mantis's mind control, and they were trying to yank the gauntlet off, and right when Peter had the gauntlet off of the hand, like, if you remember in Infinity War, Spider-Man had the gauntlet, it was off, and he had almost completely pulled it off of Thanos' hands, but Star-Lord effed up. So as soon as Star-Lord caused Mantis's hypnosis to not be effective anymore, Thanos looked over and he pulled the gauntlet back on his hand. Like, Spider-Man had it. He had the shit. It felt the same way in this case, but they broke Walker's arm and took the damn shield. And to end the fight, because he got back up, if I'm not mistaken, what had happened was Sam had the shield, and Bucky like took Walker and like ran and like kind of swung around like a bat, and then Sam used his thrusters to fly. So basically, Walker was flung right into the shield, and it was almost like a triple knockout, and they all got up. Well, actually, Bucky got up, threw the shield to Sam. It almost was a mirror of Civil War where Steve threw the shield down when Tony asked, and then he walked away. That's how it happened. Bucky got up, he took the shield, he threw it at Sam, and then he walked away. Like the look, like, yeah, see, now this wouldn't have happened if you would have kept the shield to begin with. And then Sam gets up, and you could tell by the look on his face, he was really like, I should have never given the shield up. And the part that made me kind of cringe was where he picked the shield up and, he was rubbing some of the blood off. And I'm like, bro, I mean, you got some fingerless gloves. I wouldn't have touched that. But also during the fight, Walker had ripped Sam's wings off. So there goes. I mean, what was it? In episode 2, Red Wing got destroyed. And now in episode 5, the wings on the Falcon suit are gone. So the suit is completely ineffective. So later on, we pretty much see Sam, Torres, and Bucky just kind of talking. Bucky leaves to go find Zemo, and Torres kind of looks over the parts of the wings like, what the heck happened to the suit? And then they pretty much say the government intervened due to Walker's situation, basically because he did a public execution in a foreign country. It's basically the same as an international disaster. So basically the heroes are kind of sidelined. Torres said something really good. Sometimes nothing is all we can do until something happens. I'm like, I got to use that. So basically, Sam, takes the shield and walks off, and Torres like, hey, what about your wings? Like, keep them. Yeah, he's going to become Falcon, no doubt, just like in the comics. So basically, not to jump too far ahead, but Bucky finds Zemo at the Sokovia Memorial, and Zemo already assumes like, hey man, I know you're going to kill me, but just to let you know, there's no bad blood between us. I know I said super soldiers shouldn't exist, but I don't plan on killing you. So Bucky takes out a gun. And when Zemo is just kind of prepared to be shot, that's not the case. He actually drops the bullet to show that, no, I'm not going to kill you. But then the Dora Milaje is brought in and they take Zemo away to the raft instead of Wakanda. And remember, the raft was seen in Civil War. Thaddeus Ross is in charge of it. It's like that underwater prison. That's where, Team Cap's arrested sidekicks were put in there. Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Wanda, and Falcon. So I'm pretty sure this is leading up to Thunderbolts, no doubt about it, because I do believe before he leaves, Zemo tells Bucky that Carly needs to be killed. Like, that's the only way to stop her at this point. So yeah, I was a little let down. I'm like, that's how Zemo is taken out. But then I remember, yeah, if Ross is involved, it's probably going to be a Thunderbolts mission in the near future, almost like Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad, so to speak. So we also have another scene where I did feel bad for John Walker. So he's brought to, obviously the Capitol, and he's pretty much ripped up all of his military ranking, the status of Captain America, no benefits or anything. Basically, he's a non-factor. All of that, regardless of your military excellence, serving the country, this and that, we're pretty much, disowning you. That's literally what it boils down to. And it's real life stuff, when veterans come home from war and they don't have benefits or anything, he's getting nothing. And he pleads, is like, look, if you can just hear me out, the situation, what happened, what led to me murdering that guy. And they don't want to hear it. It's like, look, the only reason we're not giving you a dishonorable discharge or having you court-martialed is because of your excellence prior to this, international crisis. And Walker goes off, and it's like, you feel for the guy because, to be honest, he isn't wrong. You made me. I did everything that you instructed and then some. I am Captain America. And he's like, not anymore. I mean, throughout the entire episode, I feel like he said, I am Captain America like 20 times. Like, I'm Batman. It's like, he's going to say he's Captain America no matter what. It's like, not anymore, man. I don't know what you're talking about. And then before he leaves, he leaves in the middle of his discipline, basically when the senator is just reading off everything that he's like, not to say, not to do. It's like, we know you don't have the shield, you haven't brought the shield back. We want it back immediately. So then he goes outside and his wife comes out there to console him, and Valentina something other, I forget her name. I know it was the chick from Seinfeld. She was like the new celebrity cast member who plays a character from the comic books. I know the name. She goes under so many aliases in the comic books. In one variation, she's part of Hydra. She was an early love interest of Nick Fury. They both work for S.H.I.E.L.D. They're both spies. But in this case, I'm thinking her timing showing up probably is similar to the Thunderbolts, or they want him to be something more. It's like, hey, the government kicked you out, but you're a super soldier. I know you got the serum. I know you don't have a shield. FYI, it's a gray area, but that doesn't belong to the government, because remember, the shield was made from vibranium from Wakanda, so it's not government property. Also, on top of that, she's giving the wife a blank card, so it's like, hey, the smartest thing you did, aside from taking that serum or in killing that guy, because I would have done the same thing, is you answering my phone call. So she leaves. And I also read that originally this character was supposed to debut in the Black Widow movie. She's still going to be in the movie. It's just like this should have been her second appearance. But remember, Black Widow's been delayed so many times that, what can you do? So later on in the episode, John Walker is going to see Battlestar's family to let him know what happened. And he pretty much tells them like, hey, that's why I killed the guy, because the dad actually asked, so that was the man you killed. That was the man that killed our boy. Yes. And we know that's a lie. And, the mom hugs him and gives him a photo of their son, and John saying that he was so proud of you. He was proud to be your partner. You did great things and we're going to miss him. And John's like, don't worry. It's like, you ever need anything, let me know. I don't know if the sister didn't buy the story or if she was just given a non-speaking role. So she was just meant to look emotional and attached, but I don't know, did she not buy John's story or what, or she just upset that, hey, my brother's gone? So John leaves and he sees a poster of himself, Cap his back, so he's still hung up on being Captain America. And to jump to the mid-credit scene, it felt like Tony building the armor in the cave. We hear the clanking of a hammer on metal, and then in the mid-credit scene we see John Walker is melting down his medals of honor and whatnot. And to be honest, I'd probably do the same thing too. I mean, what was it, last episode he told Battlestar, those 3 medals of honor, I mean, those are just to remind me of the worst day of my life in regards to that mission in Afghanistan. And now that the government has stripped away all of his titles and whatnot, those awards are meaningless. So he's melting them down and he's making his own cap shield. So we're probably going to see the birth of a U.S. agent now, as opposed to Captain America. But back to Sam and Bucky, or more so Sam. He's back at home. Turns out that the boat isn't going to be sold because the boat is so rickety that it will cost more for the person to buy the boat. The person who buys the boat, it would cost more to fix it up than it is to buy it. So they call in some favors, and it's pretty cool because Sam notices his sister making lunches for some of the neighborhood kids who aren't able to make or, get lunches for themselves. And he's like, well, how many favors do we have around town? Like, how many families did, mom and dad help? And he makes some phone calls and the community comes together for like a block party of sorts, and they help bring the boat together. And I love this moment because it's like, when the government, the banks, they don't want to help you out, the community, they got each other's backs. I love the moment. This was like a laid back episode. It's like, if I'm not mistaken, the only action was indeed the first scene where they fight Walker, while the rest of the episode was character building and whatnot. And I loved it. So Bucky actually shows up with a case from Wakanda because after they take Zemo away, he actually asks, hey, I need a favor. And I'm thinking, we're not going to see what's in that case in this episode. It's like, we know whatever's in that case, it's vibranium. I mean, maybe because he noticed like, yeah, Sam's suit got torn up or whatever, but in any case, Bucky helps out. He meets Sam's sister and kind of flirts for her. Sam's like, stop flirting with my sister. And it's funny because there are so many cute, funny and adorable moments. Like whenever Sam's working on something, Bucky comes by, uses his super strength and fixes it in an instant. He's like trying to, pull off a piece of the metal with a hammer. Bucky does it easily. And then there was this one scene where I think a pipe is bursting and Sam's like, wait, why didn't you just use your vibranium arm? See, I don't always think about that because I'm right-handed. I just love that moment. So basically, from there, Bucky is telling Sam about the whole situation in regards to, hey, we pretty much can't do anything until Carly, makes the next move. And they have a nice scene where they're trying to fix the boat. And he tries to flirt with Sarah again, but she's mad because I think they're working on like a water pump or something. And it's like, look, I already told you we don't need to work on that piece. So they get up and leave and go back to the house because Bucky got to spend the night and he woke up seeing Sam's nephews playing with the shield and he was smiling. I was like, oh, darn kids. So they're training with the shield. And it's just like in the trailers where, Sam is throwing the shield, bouncing off the trees and whatnot. And he and Bucky have a heart-to-heart. And remember, Sam is a counselor. So, I mean, this one talk to me, it felt like this talk or therapy session was more effective than Bucky's sessions with that one therapist from the first couple episodes. But basically, Sam is like, hey, Steve is gone. I know this shield, it means, to you family. To me, it has a complex history. But, it doesn't really matter what Steve thinks. Steve thought this, but at the end of the day, it's what we think. And Bucky says, it's like, yeah, I understand. It's like when Steve told me what his plan was. So that pretty much confirms Steve did tell Bucky what his plan was, but prior to going back in time at the end of Endgame. And he's like, yeah, I never thought, what it meant for like a black man to have that shield. Because earlier in the episode, and I'll get to Isaiah Bradley soon enough, but basically from there, Sam also says, hey, you have that list where you're trying to avenge people, but what you need to do is like think of the people who, you just need to be open and honest with in order to give them closure, as opposed to just apologizing left and right. So they pretty much agree to that, hey, we're not buddies, we're not partners, we're just co-workers. They go their separate ways, with Bucky's like, hey, as soon as you get a hit on Carly, let me know and I'll be there. So we also go to New York City, and this is the part that confuses me. Now, I know that in like episode 2, it was established that whenever the Flag Smashers get to like a safe house, they go online to kind of erase their existence in like the prior location they were at. But there have been some photos of Carly, and her name is nationwide or worldwide known. So I think they're like in Central Park or just a park in New York, and they're just sitting in the wide open. And I'm like, nobody notices this is her. I mean, I was kind of taken aback by that, but what's his name? I forget, the Russian dude who fought Sam at the beginning of the series, the one who got away. Not to mention he was the guy that Captain America fought at the beginning of Winter Soldier on the boat. Sharon Carter actually got him out of jail to work with the Flag Smashers. And he's like, hey, I'm just trying to kill the Falcon. I ain't got no beef on your plan with the GRC. But she actually sends a text message to everybody who's a Flag Smasher, kind of like in episode 1 where a text is sent out, everybody groups together and she whistles. And I'm like, okay, nobody knows it's just being suspicious. Okay, that makes total sense, because the GRC is about to make a vote to quote unquote deport everyone, the blip people, and put them back in their countries, even though not enough supplies or everything are in these areas. Basically, they're going to be in like almost like internment camps for the blip, so to speak. They're just going to be jumbled together. But basically, there are some Flag Smashers on the inside of the meeting, and they corrupt the summit. And from there, Torres tells Sam, hey, of a lack of a VPN, I just noticed in New York City, that's where they're at. And then when Sam says, hey, I'll take her from here, he opens the box, and that's the end of the episode, because we don't get to see the suit. I'm pretty sure it's a new Falcon or Captain America suit, just like in the comics, with probably vibranium wings this time. But obviously, the most emotional scene came from Sam going to visit Isaiah Bradley in Baltimore. I don't really need to talk too much about this because, like I said, if you've read the comic Truth, or ever since episode 2, if you watch people do videos on Isaiah Bradley, you know the history. To Tuskegee Airmen, which is actually accurate in real life. Black soldiers in the military, the army, or whatever, just basically black soldiers in general were given all kinds of experimental vaccines, or in this case, super soldier serum. And Bradley wanted to save his, fellow black soldiers who were going to be blown up in the camp in order to erase evidence. So when he did this, he got arrested for, what was it, like 20 years, 30 years. And he was experimented on. And it was only because a nurse took pity on him that he was licensed dead and pretty much went into hiding during that time. However, his wife was informed that he was dead and she had passed away. And all the letters that, she had written for him were never received. So everything was given to him in a box thanks to that nurse. So basically he shows Sam the history, and it's like, it doesn't matter just because you had that white man's shield. Like, America hasn't changed. It doesn't matter. No self-respecting black man would ever be Captain America. And I obviously, I'm not doing the scene justice. Watch the episode. It was a great scene. We also see his grandson again, so I wonder if he's going to be in the Young Avengers like in the comics, just saying. But other than that, I love this episode. It was pretty good. Like I said, the first scene, the action, but the rest of the episode is just, talking and emotion and character moments. So if that's not your thing, you're probably not going to like this episode for rewatchability, aside from the opening scene. But I loved it. It was great. Can't wait for the finale, if for no other reason to see Sam's new suit. And with that being said, thanks so much for tuning in. And if you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App. And at the very least, just make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.